Welcome to CMOs Offscript. We're experts in healthcare marketing, and each week we'll tackle one topic with unfiltered advice you won't hear anywhere else. Let's jump in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of CMOs Offscript. Today we have an exciting topic, one of the ones that we've talked about before, but things are rapidly changing on a daily basis, it feels like, with using different types of AI tools and even how AI is affecting what we do on a day-to-day basis is pushing out outbound campaigns, driving inbound, and all of the above. And so we thought about bringing on somebody who is pretty closely tight-knit in the happenings of what's going on a day-to-day basis. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
Yeah. Do you want to tell
Awesome.
our audience a little bit about what you work on, and that way they have some context, and then we can get rolling on some of the topics we have here today.
Okay, so I own Breezy Hill Marketing with my partner, Laura. I'm the CEO, but I do multiple things, take out the trash, stuff like that. But I focus really on the technical stuff. So the back end, developing websites, SEO, and some of the other acronyms we talk about today is one of those things that I talk about. I also work with the team on like CRMs and fun stuff like that, the back end. So that's what I do in a nutshell. I'm sure Laura's going to add more to it.
Yeah, so I think that good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, Jeff. I'm super happy to have you here. The reason we wanted to bring you on, Jeff, is because you have been spending so much time reading up on and watching and learning about the space of search and AI. And we thought it would be really helpful to have you frame it for us and talk through some of the things that you're thinking about and considering. That it would be great to have you here to kind of educate us on search and AI and what's happening. We're all paying attention to AI. We're all using a variety of different tools and seeing where it's helping us move faster and be more productive. But there's this side of AI that's impacting how we manage search. And so we would love for you to give us a briefer on it and help us get into it.
Okay, great. The question of how AI is impacting search is obviously very relevant. And I kind of frame it as there being two different flavors to it of how AI is being used with search. So you have two frames. You have answer engine optimization, and I'll tell you what that is. And then GEO, which is generative engine optimization, which may sound like the exact same thing. So the AEO is really about smart snippets on Google and quick answer machines or quick answer systems like Bing questions and things like that. So those are the type of answers that are really more, I'd say, tactical almost. It's really relevant to certain content. And it's about showing up in those answer engine optimizations. And ways to do that are creating things that are short, concise, clear answers, and creating content that is consumable, that seems like a question someone might ask. And it really has to do with it more with the technical aspect of SEO being schema, which is just creating markup on a page or site that presents the data to these engines in a way that's easy for them to consume, because easier to consume means easier processing, it gets up quicker. And so FAQs are something that come up a lot. So when people add FAQs to like their product, services, or even a blog post, and you add FAQ schema, which is the markup for FAQs, that allows the answer engine to get that content and process it and use it in their index. And so when you create that FAQ, you want to create it in a conversational type of tone. So it'll answer the questions. That's when we naturally ask natural language, things like that. So that is AEO high level. Generative Engine Optimization is really feeding the LLMs, the ChatGPTs, the Claudes, the Perplexity AI. And this is creating long form content. And it not only allows you to show up in results, but it's really about building your brand and building trust and your authority and things like that. So one of the ways for doing that is kind of taking AEO and putting it on steroids. So that's creating the very long form content, but that's adding a lot of structure to it. So that's adding like the table of contents at the top. That maybe adding an FAQ in the article, creating as much markup as you possibly can. But again, focusing on creating the content in a way that's conversational, in the way someone might talk about it. And the idea of that is that when someone does a search on ChatGPT, Perplexity AI, Claude, what have you, Gemini, you could come up, your content could come up as a citation. So like when you read something, and Perplexity is very good at this for citing its sources. When you are looking up something, it would be great if the content you created pertaining to that topic is showing up as, as at the top, like you are the key resource or one of the top three. So that's the two different ways that AI is really impacting how we create content and search. And there are different tips and tricks for doing it, and how you write posts and how you kind of present the data information on the page itself. Like with AEO, when you create a blog post, your first paragraph, you really want to be about what you're talking about, what you're doing. So it kind of like loads up the answer engine that this is what we're talking about. Kind of gives it a taste to dive in deeper. So that's it in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it. Oh, and I will add the best tools for kind of, not kind of, but the best tools for analyzing this stuff are the search engines, are the answer engines that are ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT all the time. Analyze this page. How can I optimize it? What are some great questions someone might have about this topic, and what is like what would be ideal for an FAQ on this topic, this blog post, this product or service. Right now, I have someone going through all our service pages and creating FAQs. All right, so I'm going to stop talking. You guys can ask me questions.
Well, I think you've just that was like a mini case study, or a mini like this is the 101 for us in a nutshell. And it's interesting, Jeff, because this has been a topic, like the issue of search and what's happening with AI has been on our minds. Like Nisha, I remember having this conversation back at the very beginning of 25, like very beginning, and I immediately was like, had to sit down with my team, and I was like, we got to solve this. Like this is, and maybe solve isn't the right word, but like we need to be focused on this. And so it's great to hear you talking about, we've definitely been leaning in on GEO, the Generative Engine Optimization, but I think even highlighting this issue around AEO is another area that maybe hasn't been at like quite as high on the top of my priority list, because I'm just like, I want to make sure that we show up at the very top of that page, because we know that now everything is getting pushed down. Now, I think the other thing that is important here is, does this mean that we should stop doing SEO? And my friends will say, well, hell no, like it's not going away. Cookies, people are already getting the opt-outs to decline, but I think we still need to keep in mind for everybody that like SEO and search is changing. It just means that there's more that we now have to think about rather than less.
Yeah, no,
it's not moving our chips over, it's just adding chips to the table, right?
Yes, yeah. So maybe you have to reallocate your budget to how you're doing it a little bit, but I'd say SEO is just as important, because what if Google decides to change how they present their results, and all of a sudden organic is back at the top or something? Obviously
Google might change how they do something.
I know.
It's like this is like our life's work, right? We would be bored if things stayed the same.
What's the algorithm of the month?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so it's like it's like the argument between whether you should do focus on social or email, and the answer is both, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Obviously, they both have their pros and cons, but you just, as we are all well aware, the way things change and the way some of these companies, update or what have you. It's just you have to have all your bases covered.
For sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nisha.
Well, thanks, Laura. I think, just to reiterate on some of this, I think one of the things that I've found the most useful amount of time that I've spent is just with taking a few pieces, like few anchor pieces that rank really well in the first place and are getting a whole bunch of traffic. Like, how do I tweak and maybe like embellish and continue to add value to that piece rather than me spending a whole bunch of resources and writing net new content, right? And so there's like this, I think strategically, when you don't have a bunch of resources and you know that you need to drive search in these newer elements, how do you mentioned like adding more context to things and FAQ at the bottom, like all of these, like how do you create that structure with the core pieces that you have already and then use that and continue on versus like spinning up cycles and trying something net new. And so I'd love your take on that.
Oh, that's a great question. So let's say you have a piece of pillar content that's thousands of words long, gets good traffic. I would say so. One of the things I would do is drop that URL into ChatGPT and say, how can I improve this for AEO or GEO? I think adding structure to it if it's not there, like table of contents. LLMs also look at visuals. So if you have some infographics to add on there and things like that with good descriptions, that's a way to do it. And yeah, just building out the content. I think another aspect of what you're asking is, how do I reuse it? And the thing is, just update it periodically. They're looking, and the questions people are asking are changing. And that's one of the aspects of this. Even when you have a great piece of content that's doing traffic, you should be on some type of schedule where you're looking at the questions people are asking and maybe tweak some of the language of what you have, or maybe add a paragraph, just kind of build out on it. And maybe make, if you see something that is, that could be work great as like its own separate blog post, build that, put the linking into that blog post that kind of supports that content. But this is also the strategy of pillar content, of creating that one central piece and then creating the supporting content that goes to it. Does that answer your question?
That's such a good reminder. Like not reminder, but it's like such a good call out. That pillar content is something that's been around for a really long time. And, that's a great example. Is SEO still valuable? Well, pillar content is classic, foundational SEO strategy. And I love that that is still relevant as a part of this new generation of search.
Yeah, and I would say also just on building out is, so you have authors, you should really have solid author pages, meaning link to them, linking to their social media, maybe a brief description. The New York Times has awesome author pages, and it links to their content, blog posts they've written, or articles, obviously in their case. But just kind of that's part of the authority piece too, is building your authority, which helps, obviously.
Tell me about why though. Like, why does that really matter? Like, especially in an organization where you may have people at a number of different levels. Obviously, ideally, you've got folks that are pretty senior that are authoring pieces, but I've got specialist clinicians that are working on stuff. I've got some of our own content people that are writing that are writing content. So talk to me about why that really matters.
That's a good question. So this has to go back to building not only authority in your area of expertise, but within these search engines and LLMs. So when you have a good author page linking you, and you link to like your social account or the post you're doing, then the big brains out there are seeing you and think, oh, this person is an authority. This person has value in what they're doing. And so it really helps not only them, but helps you. So when the whatever engine, LLM, answer engine sees this person as being someone of value, when they write a new post and link to it, that's going to add some value to it. It's not monumental, but I think it's good for both the organization and that person. Like you definitely
All
obviously,
additive.
yeah, you want to have the link in, that link there in a little bio about what they do.
That's great.
It's just it's all a big network of building upon building upon building upon things to build up that kind of internet cloud, for lack of a better term.
Which is again, it's that everything changes and nothing changes.
Right. But it's like you can't forget the basics, right? It's so easy, I think, for us to be like, oh, we've got to focus on these like new, sexy, bright, shiny objects. And it's like, yes. And you still have to do the foundational work of making sure that you've got somebody credible that's communicating this piece of information. Like that hasn't changed. Like just because you've got a search tool that is pulling stuff in, like it's still looking for authority. It's still trying, and it's trying to discern, right? And so how do you help it do that? Just in the same way that we are looking for credible sources of information. How do we determine whether I should be listening to, person A versus person B, right? So we're trying to discern that in the same way. So I think that's just a fantastic reminder. Help the LLMs look for, like, find and discern with credible clout.
Yeah. And I think there's the heart of why we wanted to talk about this topic, right? I think in general, we all know, and we will find actually the official report around where conversion rates are starting to dip. We're seeing conversion rates across all channels starting to dip, head down. And the three of us, Jeff, sat around on a Friday and started to talk a little bit about what might be the reason. Amanda, is it because we've got all these fancy GPTs now that can write a whole bunch of content in less than a couple of seconds, just a few prompts? And so now shipping out content, it's really a push of a button, right? We don't need the resources we needed 2 years ago, even.
Yes and no for everyone else who's listening. I just had this conversation. In theory.
So in theory, right? Because
in
this
theory,
is the thing that we are fighting up against is
yes,
to everybody else that doesn't sit in the head of marketing. Oh, it should be super easy. Let's just write up an article on so-and-so thing. And we all know that, well, it's not just, let's just run it through a GPT and spit out an article and then we push it out on our website. Everybody's doing that now. So your one article is getting lost in all of the noise because everybody's trying to talk about the same thing. And so it becomes this sea of sameness and my point of view, and you've lost your perspective because now everybody has the same perspective. And your GPT is just agreeing with everything you're saying anyway. So it's like, great idea, Nisha. I'm going to go write that. It's not being contrarian at all.
Nope.
And this is where I feel like we have lost some of these basics that we were talking about. Being strategic and methodical. And yes, this is a pillar piece. How do we add value to this? What are people even searching about? What do they care about? And all that takes time.
And it takes thought.
Yes.
It takes thought and sort of coordination and alignment with your brand and your messaging and your strategy and how does this fit in and it's everything that we've been talking about. AI is amazing at saving time and helping us do things faster. However, there's this enormous human component that is absolutely present. And it's an intellectual component. It's somebody who can do analysis and somebody who can bring this information together and make it make sense in the context of what you're doing and make sure that things are getting done the way that it's done properly and with quality, and that we're putting out perspectives and opinions that are rich and varied and valuable as opposed to, generic.
And this is my hypothesis, right? My prediction is that all of this, going back to what makes us different and unique and differentiate our companies in the next year, these LLMs and these GPTs are only going to cloud that. And if you are using a GPT right now to write content and ship it, and there's not a human in the loop in that process, you are not going to differentiate in this market, period.
Yeah, I think that's a great insight. Yeah, you need to. The funny thing about me is just researching like GEOs, AEOs is they like the human content to put into their response. So it's kind of like building on that. It's like, don't,
Irony.
I'm ChatGPT. Don't tell me what ChatGPT said. Maybe take the nucleus of what ChatGPT spit out, give it to human, make it conversational, something like how a human would talk about it, knowing, the intricacies of the human mind, and then spit it back out. But then I'll put it in my response to the next person that asks about that question, which I think is kind of funny. But yeah, to your point, in order to be relevant, you need that human somewhere in the loop, making it human.
Which is, bringing nuance and experience and and flavor to an otherwise, potentially flat response.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's so interesting because I think particularly in the space that we're operating in, when it comes to health, like I think we have been thinking about this whole idea of how do you layer on digital to something that is inherently very human. And so it's interesting to see that come forward here too. I've been reflecting on this a lot of like this high tech, high touch, human in the loop component of the work that we're doing, and how that ties back to, on a micro scale, and how that ties back to the broader work that we're doing in general. And I think it's so true that we are, at the end of the day, like a critical component to this work being made possible. And it's yet another tool, and we can't treat it as a full replacement. But I think the reality is that as we look at the universe of opportunity, the number of articles I'm seeing of late of like, oh, somebody's job's being replaced by, AI. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't think that marketing is a replaceable job, but we need to be able to think differently about how we do it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, can it make us more effective? I sure as hell hope so. But we also have to think differently and still rely on all of those foundational components.
Amen.
I agree with you.
I think the scalability aspect to me is still key when it comes to some of these newer tools, right? And we've talked about, aside from just some of what we just went through with search, like yes, using the LLM to enhance what's already been written by the human, yes. But then there's also taking some of the newer tools and then trying to figure out how do you slice and dice that same pillar piece into various different types of things. And I think that I could see, I've seen some success there, right? Like help me figure out how to make this into a video, and then several other content pieces, and yada yada. And so that piece, I think, but then again, you need there needs to be somebody behind it.
Review.
Yes.
Yeah. Oversight. Yes. Human oversight. Lovely idea.
But my one thing about all of this is that at some point your tech stack needs a review, because if you've got 15 different tools doing 15 different specialized AI powered things, then you're just complicating things for your team versus being effective, and it actually helped them speed up. Right. And so like if you've got an AI powered video tool, editing tool, and a podcasting AI editing tool, and whatever, and then you've got your Adobe powered AI thing, and then there's like at some point we have to step back and be like, okay, is this hurting us? Because now I'm paying for 16 different things versus me just having two people who can run effectively with the tech stack, with a minimal tech stack. Less is more, I guess, is my.
I agree.
Is that the right approach? Is my question.
Also, I think there's a call out to the quality from AI. Somebody recently shared a Copilot AI document that was created based on conversations within their environment. And the bullet points created for this particular client's product were so off the mark. So it shot wrong. It shot right, shot to the wrong stat. It didn't quite capture the content accurately. So I think that's the other thing, is you have to really make sure you're carefully reviewing what's created and that it's correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it a ton. Like some of the AI native, like the AI agent, like native tools that are, the Copilot stuff. Especially, I'm a big fan of Notion, and so, but I don't use the Notion agent, like the AI agent, because it has led me astray. Where sometimes I'll be like, it'll do this neat little like summarize this page. Do you want to summarize this page? And it's like pulling, I don't even know, like something happened, right? It's a bug, and it's like pulling from some other page, and all of a sudden I'm reading, I'm like, this has nothing to do with these notes. Like, where did this come from?
Yeah, it just kind of runs off.
Yeah, there is this element where, yes, like we have to slow. I know everybody hates to hear it because AI is supposed to speed us up, but like we still, I think, are at that point where
go slow to go fast.
Yeah.
But I think this is that moment of testing, right? To start to see what things are actually effective. I mean, we've been trying out a bunch of different tools, and some of them are amazing. But I think, Nisha, to your point, it's like, again, they're like micro tools, right? It's very specialized. And in some cases, like, is that creating it lift for us? Yes. So we're like, thanks, we'll take a couple of those. And at some point, you can't have this goes back to the, how many subscription services are we using, right? Like, I pulled the plug on cable years ago, and my husband's now like, yo, like how many different, streaming services do we need to have replacing cable? We're paying more. Right. So I translate over here. Welcome to marketing tech stacks, where we could literally layer on like 1,000+ things. Is it serving us, and is it the most effective use of our time, effort, and money and resource? Right.
I'll tell you, Amanda, I feel that so deeply, because right now I'm looking at like 5 different enrichment tools, and I'm like, Apollo plus Clay plus this deal thing plus like LinkedIn Navigator plus like the Breeze and HubSpot. I'm like, where?
Okay, this is a tee up for the next conversation.
Yeah, but that's all.
Just like peace.
No,
I don't talk about it.
No, you're like, bring me in.
Yeah, no, I love Clay. I've been using it a lot lately, so I have some thoughts on that, and we use Apollo too. But yeah, the enrichment thing. What's that?
I would love the next conversation, honestly,
Part 2
about AI enrichment tools, because I feel like at this point there's like this Venn diagram happening of like, Apollo's only good here, Clay is only good here, Breeze, you've only got 5,000 credits. Like,
yes. All right. Next Friday, part 2. Great. We're going to talk tech stack, and we might even bring that Venn diagram, because I think you're right. I think that would be really helpful. I think this is a great conversation. We're at the top of our time, so let's continue on for part 2, which is looking at the tech stack that supports all of these fantastic marketing initiatives.
Can't wait. Thanks for joining us. This was awesome.
Yeah, this has been fun. I can join every week now.
Thank you for joining, Jeff. This was awesome. So appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. This was
thank you.
Great topic.
That's a wrap for this episode of CMOs Offscript. This podcast was made possible by Breezy Hill Marketing. Don't forget to explore the podcast notes or CMOsOffscript.com for additional insights and resources. Until next time, be bold and stay curious.